it's almost time for Forbidden Door. And yeah, it's happening. I will admit I'm not massively excited about it, but then I'm never really massively excited about Forbidden Door. It's my least favourite pay-per-view, so apologies for that. But if you do enjoy it, I hope this is a good show. That's a weird introduction. Let's go through the card and recap some of the stories you may have missed, may have not been paying attention, or just want a refresher. Apologies in advance for the weird order of the matches that are on here. I didn't really look through them to sort them out into whatever would be classed as the correct order. I just kind of did them as is and just we're going with it. So first on my spreadsheet we have Adam Copeland and Christian Cage versus Kip Sabian and maybe it's Killswitch, maybe it's Luchasaurus. He's green now, so probably Luchasaurus, but they keep calling him Killswitch in the graphics, so hopefully he gets to say his piece. Background a little bit on everyone in the match. I don't know why this feels like it's been so long since I've done this that I don't know how to do it properly anymore. So Adam Copeland, this slide's kind of still about Christian Cage because it's all about Christian Cage. Adam Copeland's just kind of here, but he's been besties with Christian Cage since they were little kids, and good for them. And they were a tag team in WWE for a long time until WWE decided that they wanted Copeland to be a main star and Christian was kind of like whatever at that point. He joined AEW in 2023 to save Darby Allin, who was being attacked by Christian Cage, because that's what Christian Cage does. Copeland's big thing was wanting to end their careers together as a tag team because Copeland's had to step back a couple of times from injuries and potentially retirement and all that kind of stuff, and it was like, oh well, we're both pushing in our 50s now, we'll tag together, do one last great run, and then we can go off into the sunset together and be old men just chilling and being friends again. And Christian Cage told him to go fuck himself. He wasn't interested in that. He wasn't interested in Copeland. And they had a feud for a while. Christian Cage is bitter that he was always overlooked in favour of his friend Adam. Pretty much for his entire career. And Christian Cage came into AEW in, I want to say it was 2021. I should have done my research on that. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, he has since found success. He became the TNT champion for a little bit. We might brush on that when we talk about Luchasaurus / Killswitch. Yeah, so he's found success and he's claiming that now that he's got success on his own, Adam's trying to come in, steal it all, ruin everything from him again. Christian won the Casino Gauntlet at All In 2024. Where he got a guaranteed shot at the men's world title that you could cash in at any time. And this is where things start to get a little bit, I was going to say spicy, I don't think spicy is the right word. Apparently the patriarchy, which we'll get to in a second, Christian Cage is the leader of a faction known as the patriarchy. They had a plan on when he was supposed to cash it in, and Christian Cage went off piste and cashed it in during Adam Copeland's world title shot against Jon Moxley because he didn't want Copeland to become the men's world champion because he's a bitter old man who's jealous of his friend. And then we have the patriarchy, which is Christian Cage faction, as I've said. He would often put Nick Wayne on a pedestal while treating Killswitch like crap. Killswitch is the little dinosaur, in case you wanted to know. And then Mother Wayne joined, who is Nick Wayne's actual mum, basically because she didn't want to lose her son, because Nick Wayne was being an asshole and she was trying to turn him into a good guy again, and he wasn't having it, so she kind of just joined the patriarchy just because. And then Kip Sabian joined later because he doesn't have a dad, so why not? The main reason for the patriarchy turning on Christian Cage was that they were unhappy that he cashed in when he wasn't supposed to, that he didn't stick to the plan. And then Christian was obviously angry that he was getting called out, that he's the leader of the patriarchy, he's the father, and they should listen to him. And then he kind of started treating Nick like crap a little bit. And then they were like, screw this, and attacked Christian at All In this year. Kip Sabian. So this match was initially Nick and Kip versus Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. But Adam Copeland has had issues with FTR. And FTR attacked Copeland. I want to say it was after a promo. I'm not 100% sure. And then Christian came out and saved him. And then Kip and Nick came out and attacked Christian. And then Nick is now injured. I don't know if that's a legit injury or not. I'm guessing not, given that Luchasaurus is back. But we'll get to that. But Kip joined the patriarchy way after everybody else. So it was initially just Killswitch, and then Nick joined, and then Kip joined later because Christian tried to was going to cash in his contract. I can't remember when, but Jon Moxley, leader of the Death Riders, was still champion at the time. Kip stole his pen to stop him from signing the contract to make the match official, and when Christian went to chase after him to get his pen back, because apparently that's the only pen in existence, he bumped into the Death Riders backstage, and it became clear that he would have been ambushed by those Death Riders if he'd have signed the contract. So then Kip became part of the family for saving Christian from making a mistake, but then he turned against Christian with Nick Wayne, and he is clearly a sneaky little snake. He's the evil royal advisor whispering bad things into the Prince Boy's ears, and the Prince Boy not having the knowledge or the foresight to realise that he's been manipulated. Is very clearly being manipulated by Kip and probably Mother Wayne. And also he's English. This is worth noting. Forbidden Door is in London, so there are a couple of matches on this thing where it's like, he's English, so he's on the card. This one, I think, is less so, because this is a decent story that's been going on for a while now, and everyone's been waiting for the patriarchy to turn against Christian Cage. We were hoping for it with Killswitch, and then we will get to Killswitch now, because he's been out for a while. He has the most history with Christian Cage, other than Adam Copeland, but obviously they're tagging together, so that's fine. So he was one half of a tag team called Jurassic Express with Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and then Christian came, I think he was like a manager for the team, I'm not sure, I've not watched that section of AEW yet, so I don't know if he was like a manager or just like close friend looking out for their interests. I think he was a manager. But Christian and Luchasaurus turned against Jack Perry, and then Luchasaurus became the TNT champion, but Christian would parade the belt around as if he was the TNT champion, and that Luchasaurus is just his right hand of destruction and sort of nothing else. And then there was a three-way match when Luchasaurus was still the TNT champion, I think. I think that's how it worked. It was a while ago and I've forgotten. And then Christian won that TNT championship, and he renamed Luchasaurus to Killswitch, and he had, at that time, also renamed Nick Wayne to the Prodigy. Killswitch is the name of one of Christian Cage's finishing moves, or his only finishing move. A finishing move that he does. Yeah, so then at the end of 2023, at World's End, the pay-per-view, Christian Cage was the TNT champion going into the match, And at the beginning of that pay-per-view, there was a casino gauntlet match, because they love to do these, to give a contract to challenge for the TNT Championship. And Killswitch won that contract. And then later on in the same pay-per-view, Christian Cage, TNT champion, had a match against Adam Copeland for the championship. Adam Copeland won that match, and then Christian Cage immediately convinced Killswitch to let Christian take and use that contract. Christian signed that contract, the match restarted, Christian became TNT champion again, and Adam Copeland had 3 minutes with the TNT championship until he won it again later down the line. Christian basically, as you can probably tell from some of that, treated Killswitch like crap and always held Nick Wayne onto a pedestal, and Luchasaurus Killswitch was just always the one that could do nothing right and was never good enough. And they'd been teasing that he might turn against Christian Cage for a long time, but he's been out of action for a year because he caught pneumonia. I don't know if you catch pneumonia, develop pneumonia, I don't know the details. I just know that he was sick for a long time and he was out. And then when they said Nick Wayne is being injured by Christian Cage and Adam Copeland, Killswitch returned and is now in this match, ready to kick some old men's asses. Now, issue's not the right word, but Killswitch wasn't really there when Kip joined, or hasn't been around for a long time, so I don't think he really knows the dynamic of what Kip is trying to do with Nick Wayne, like manipulating him into thinking that he's the best. Although, to be fair, Nick Wayne has improved a lot under Christian's tutelage, so maybe he doesn't need Christian anymore. But we don't know what Kip's motivations are, and Killswitch has not been around for a long time, so he probably doesn't know what the motivations are. They've also not really tagged together at all, so we don't know what their chemistry is going to be like. But then obviously Christian Cage and Adam Copeland have not tagged in a very long time as well, so who knows what that's going to be like. It's interesting. It's a very interesting new chapter for whatever is going on here, which is always a good thing. And yeah, I'm not interested for the match itself, I'll be honest, but I am interested in where the story leads, so that's always a good sign. And then we'll move on now. AEW Unified Championship. I don't know if these slides are in the right order in terms of explanations, but title origins, it was originally 2 titles. It was the Continental Championship and the International Championship, and Kenny Omega was International Champion and Okada was the Continental Champion. And then Kenny lost to Okada at All In, which unified the belts because now Okada has both of them. And they introduced a new belt to be like, oh, these championships are unified. I don't know if that means that they're only ever going to be defended together, because he's carrying 3 belts around now, which is confusing. I think they kind of did a similar thing with the Trios titles at one point when they sort of unified them with the Ring of Honor titles, and then they split them again. So I don't know if these are going to get split again once the next Continental Classic happens, or if they'll be fighting for this title. I don't know. It's confusing. Just give one of the belts to the women. Like, we can have a women's international championship. Like, that would be fun. That would be the best solution. Have Okada wrestle, preferably Chris Statlander. Have Chris Statlander win the international championship, and that can be the women's belt from now on. That would be my dream, personally. Anyway, distracted. Moving on. Small break for extra context. So, Don Callis is kind of like not in the center of this match, but he's in the background of most things in AEW these days, because his family is massive. So Don Callis was like an uncle to Kenny Omega and sort of acted as his manager for a big chunk of the time that he was in AEW. And then Don Callis betrayed Kenny and claimed that he was weak and he didn't want him anymore. And he became manager to Konosuke Takeshita, who had in Don loves to brag that he beat Kenny Omega twice in a week or something. So there's a big Don Callis thing. And then also Kenny Omega was a member of the Elite for years with Matt and Nick Jackson and Hangman Adam Page. And then the Jacksons fired Kenny from the Elite for not coming into work without a reason. He did have a reason. He was very ill, but according to them, he didn't have a reason. But they added Okada to the Elite, as well as Jack Perry, who has disappeared and will hopefully be back soon because I miss him. So Don offered his services to Okada because he knew Kenny like the back of his hand from his decades of like being his uncle or whatever bond they were trying to push. So he has a lot of knowledge on how to beat Kenny Omega. So Okada, still being part of the Elite, also joined the Don Callis family. And then Okada won, like I said, he won that match from Kenny. So he's the current champion and he's a member of the Elite. If they still exist, they've kind of not really been together for a while. Jack Perry's been gone for a long time. Nick and Matt, we've seen him interact with Okada, and Okada's like still his mate and stuff. But they can't call themselves the Elite while also pretending to be jobbers. So like we're moving on from that. Anyway, that's by the by. So, recent member of the Don Callis family, Don helped him win the title from Kenny. Nick and Matt, really good friends of Okada. That's the main thing that needs to be acknowledged, because then Swerve Strickland comes in and he was sick of Matt and Nick swinging their dicks around as EVPs and using that power for evil. So he proposed with technically Will Ospreay proposed that the two of them tag together, Swerve and Will, against the Young Bucks at All In. And the stipulation of that match was, if the Young Bucks lose, they lose their EVP status. If Will and Swerve lose, then they can't challenge for the world title for a year. But Swerve and Will won. Young Bucks no longer EVPs. And Okada was upset about that because the Jacksons are his friends. So he attacked Swerve because they hurt his friends. And he was upset about that. And now Swerve's big thing is that he just wants a belt. Like, sometimes that's enough. Storyline wise, you want a belt. I'm not that excited about this match. I feel like I'm the only one that isn't that excited about this match, because there's not a lot. It's weird because I've done 4 slides on this, but it still feels like there's not a lot of meat to it. They've not been fighting as frequently or featured as frequently as a lot of the other people that have got matches on these cards, which is fine. Take a break. Okada's got a child. Swerve's got a lot of stuff going on career wise, but I don't know, I'm not buzzing about it. I think it's maybe something to do with the fact that I want Okada to retain just so Takeshita can come back and beat him for the belt. And I have a feeling that Swerve's just going to win, and then I'm going to be disappointed because I wanted my Okada-Takeshita feud to be for a belt, not a belt. Moving on. AEW Tag Team Championship. You will sense my lack of excitement for this one just based on the slides, probably. I wrote everything in bigger fonts because there's not a lot to write about. So the Hurt Syndicate have been tag team champions after beating Private Party ages ago. I think it was like, when was it? Like February, March? Earlier than that? I don't know. I don't remember. It was whatever. It's worth. I feel like I'm down on these a lot. I do actually, I mean, I really like Shelton Benjamin wrestling, and I really want to watch him wrestle, but they're not very compelling as a tag team, generally, in my opinion. They don't get to speak a lot, and I want to hear Shelton and Bobby speak, because they seem like genuinely fun guys that have just got MVP speaking for them in a way that doesn't seem to reflect their personalities as wrestlers. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Anyway, they hurt people, and they were looking for challenges after kind of destroying most of the tag teams that they faced against so far. So AEW was like, we'll hold a tag team tournament. We love to hold a tag team tournament and then include the same people over and over again with similar results over and over again. So we have FTR, who are 2-time tag team champions. They're kind of obsessed with this fact. They think that it means that they're owed the world. And they advanced to the finals of the tag team tournament mainly by cheating. And they've been menaces since adding Stokely Hathaway as their manager, which, in my opinion, is the best thing that FTR have ever done. I'm as about enthusiastic about these as I am about the Hurt Syndicate, but Stokely is the only thing that's keeping me going right now in this match. They made it to the finals of the tournament against Brodito, which we'll get to in a second. That ended in a time limit draw. Those are fun. I hate time limit draws. I'm sorry. I can't be coping with 30-minute wrestling matches. I really can't. I have a small attention span, and yeah, I can't do it. Then we have Brodito, which is Brody King and Bandito. Brody King's normally part of a different tag team called Hounds of Hell with Buddy Matthews, but Buddy Matthews has been injured since February. Hopefully he'll be back soon. I don't actually know. I've not read up on how bad his injury is. And then Bandito's normally a singles wrestler, current Ring of Honor world champion. And they're kind of mainly a team because fans love both of them, and it was like, why not just stick them together? I really like both of these as a wrestler. Like, I am a really big, particularly big Brody King fan, but I can't ever get invested in a tag team that is just two guys put together. I just can't bring myself to do it, because I know that as soon as Buddy Matthews is clear to wrestle and comes back, then this tag team's not going to exist anymore. So these are the two guys that I like, and I can pretty much guarantee that they're the two guys that aren't going to win the match, because why would you put tag titles on a team that's just two lads wrestling together? Because they're fun to watch and have chemistry. I've not been excited about the tag division for a long time. I think it's because we got the Guns back and then they disappeared immediately because Colton got injured, and I hope he gets well soon. And then we had the Acclaimed and they split up. They're doing an excellent storyline, but the tag division is dying, and we don't have Private Party and Top Flight of trios now with Scorpio Sky, and it's like, where's the tag teams gone? The only saving grace in that division so far is the work that the Young Bucks are doing, and occasionally the Outrunners, but the Outrunners aren't on consistently enough, and it's just like, please give us something. Sign some new tag teams. Like, Jet Speed are good, but it's like, these are still just two singles guys you put together like 2 minutes ago. Where's the established people? Bring the Grizzled Young Veterans back to AEW. Stop hiding them behind Honor Club, please. Let them win these titles from the Hurt Syndicate. Don't give the titles to FTR again, please. I'm begging you. Also, it would have made perfect sense to have the Grizzled Young Veterans win the tag titles at Forbidden Door, given that they're both English. And now we move on. And when I said that this card was in wacky order, this is what I meant, because now we're moving on to the lights out steel cage match between the Death Riders and Young Bucks and Gabe Kidd. I put it in brackets. I know that he's in the match, but I put him in brackets because I don't know if he's part of the Death Riders or not, because he's helped Jon Moxley out a lot, but he's not technically part of the Death Riders, I don't think. Anyway, whatever. Versus Will Ospreay, Darby Allin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Golden Lovers, aka Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi. I am not excited about this match either. I don't like steel cage matches. I think just from a focusing my eyes through the cage rather than looking at the cage thing, I don't enjoy. And two of these guys are not part of the storyline. Well, a lot of these guys have not really been part of the storyline for a long time, and they're suddenly here, which is weird. So random context. So the Young Bucks are the members of the Elite, and they're no longer EVPs because they lost it in that tag match against Swerve and Will. The Young Bucks helped Jon Moxley retain his title against Swerve Strickland. So now Jon kind of like accepts their help and will tag with them sometimes. I think part of it was he brought them in because Hiroshi Tanahashi was announced to be part of the match. And I don't know if they have history from New Japan or if it was just I need people who know how to fight him or what. I don't remember. Yeah, this is my issue. I don't really remember. So Kenny Omega was a member of the Elite until he got kicked out. I mentioned that in the Unified Championship thing. So it makes sense that he might want to fight the Young Bucks given that history. And Kota Ibushi just loves Kenny Omega, so he'll do whatever to defend his honour. And then we have Tanahashi, who is the president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he's considered the ace of New Japan. And then Jon Moxley is considered the ace of AEW. I don't know if that's why they're facing off against each other. This match was announced kind of last minute. The main thing to remember from all of this is that Gabe Kidd and Will Ospreay are English. That is the crux of this match. We need to get the English guy, Will Ospreay, onto the card because he's sort of the biggest English guy on the AEW roster. And we want Gabe Kidd, who is also English and has beefed with Will Ospreay before. And we need some New Japan guys on this schedule, preferably ones that don't have visa issues. And Gabe Kidd is English, so no visa issues there. And that feels kind of like why this match exists. This idea that we need the Death Riders on the card, we need Will Ospreay on the card. Gabe Kidd's been around the Death Riders for a while. We've clearly been building for him to be at Forbidden Door as well. And then let's chuck some other guys in there to be safe. But lights out steel cage means it's unsanctioned. Whatever happens, AEW cannot be held responsible, which is so funny to me as a concept because obviously they can and they will because you are still filming it and broadcasting it, and that's not how work contracts work. You can't just be like, yeah, you can do it and we'll film it and make money out of it, but it's not on us if you get hurt. That's not how these things work. Especially when Will Ospreay's out here being like, oh, I'm not cleared to wrestle, but it's a lights out match, so I'm taking full responsibility. Like, bitch, that's not how this works. You still need to be signed off. No one's going to let you even go out there if you are injured. Yeah. I'm not enthused. But anyway, I said the main thing about this was Will and Gabe, but actually technically it's Jon Moxley and Darby Allin. So they're the only ones that got their own slides. For way back context, between them two. So Darby won a multi-man match to face Bryan Danielson for the world title at Grand Slam in September 2024. Prior to that, at All Out at the beginning of September, Moxley, well, technically it's Wheeler Yuta, I think, suffocated Bryan Danielson after he had successfully defended the title against Jack Perry. And yeah, tried to murder him. And John basically said to Darby, "You're not ready for this position in the company, and also Danielson's not going to be at Grand Slam because we murdered him," and goaded him into putting the title shot on the line in a match at Grand Slam, which turned out to just be total bullshit because Danielson was still at Grand Slam and he wrestled Nigel McGuinness, who we will get to later. But yeah, that happened. And Darby lost his title shot to Jon Moxley. And then Moxley won the title from Danielson at Wrestle Dream. Yeah, and then murdered him again. And then the Death Riders were just being assholes, going on the rampage and attacking people and whatever. And Darby was constantly like trying to fight back from him and trying to help people and just being crazy Darby as he is. A lot of jumping from tall things on top of the Death Riders. And then the Death Riders were like, yeah, we're sick of this guy. And they pushed him down a flight of stairs. And then he disappeared for a long time. He went and climbed Mount Everest. And then he returned All In. And now he's kind of haunting them like a ghost. Or he has been for a while. He's less of a ghost now. But for a couple of weeks, he definitely was. And then we have Jon Moxley, who is the former men's world champion and the leader of the Death Riders. And his big thing was like wanting to make sure that there was wrestlers that would step up when AEW needed them, because he was getting resentful that he was the only one that would ever be there when the company was needing him. Like, he was the champion during the pandemic, he was the interim champion when CM Punk got injured, and then again when CM Punk got suspended. That like anytime there was a problem, it's like, call Jon Moxley and he will come and step up and be in that position. And he holds a lot of anger that wrestlers in AEW are just having fun with their friends and, you know, having a laugh instead of like working and making sure that AEW is like solid, that he wants forged in combat wrestlers rather than let's have fun wrestlers. But he thinks that the best way to forge people in combat is to try and murder them, and also to try and murder the people who actually fight back and try and care about AEW, which is weird. Like, why would you go after Darby Allin of all people, other than the fact that he sometimes disappears to go climb Mount Everest? But like, why murder Orange Cassidy? He was clearly trying to go after the people that he liked rather than the people that were just having fun in the back. He was going after the people that's like, well, they're here a lot fighting for AEW. And here you are being like, you're not fighting for AEW, I'm going to try and murder you because you're not fighting for AEW. And it's like, what? They are. Should have been going after the fucking Hurt Syndicate. Like, Jesus. Anyway, so Darby challenged John for a match at Forbidden Door by kidnapping Wheeler Yuta, who is kind of Jon Moxley's son that he treats poorly. He put him in a body bag and stuck this label on his head, as you can see. And John refused because he's a big baby. He's a big baby who's scared of Darby Allin, the smallest man on the AEW roster, the little tiny boy, and he can't wrestle the little tiny boy. He's scared of the little ghost boy, little baby. And then the Death Riders tried to kill Darby again. And Will Ospreay then came to the rescue and challenged for this match, which John accepted because apparently John's not scared of Will, but he is scared of Darby. but then Darby's in this match. So it's like, why would you agree to the unsanctioned match when you wouldn't agree to the sanctioned and safe match? It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. But it's existing, it's happening, and they've just tacked on a couple of guys that aren't really in the storyline at all. Hopefully it's because it's leading to a new storyline, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on with this. I should harbour my disinterest until the match happens, and we'll go from there, but I'm not excited about a lot of this card, I'll be honest. And I think this match is probably the thing that's let me down the most. Just because it seems very last minute. Anyway, TNT Championship. So, we have Kyle Fletcher, another member of the Don Callis family. I told you, they're everywhere. And he beat Dustin Rhodes, and his big thing is like, oh, he's a menace and he's killing all of these legends. Dustin won the TNT Championship in a 4-way at All In after Adam Cole had to vacate the title due to injury, concussion probably, but I don't know if they said for certain. And Kyle was meant to face Adam in that match, but since he had to vacate it, that match became a 4-way. Dustin Rhodes then won that, and then Dustin faced Kyle, and Kyle kind of murdered him a little bit, just stabbed him in the knee with a screwdriver. And so Kyle is taking credit for both giving Adam Cole a concussion and for making Dustin Rhodes need double knee surgery. And then he beat Tomohiro Ishii in a match. He's claiming that that means that he's mopping the floor with all of these legends. A lot of people beat Ishii in matches in AEW. He's kind of just there for the fun of it rather than to win titles, so it's like, alright. But he told New Japan to send their best so he can prove that he's the best TNT champion ever. I wonder if Christian Cage is going to have issues with him trying to claim that, but I think he's got his hands full, so maybe not. So Hiromu Takahashi took up the offer, and he's a bit of a wild card. So he answered Kyle Fletcher's challenge, and they paid in like an all-star tag team match. I think it was like an 8-man tag or something, and then he pinned Josh Alexander, who is also a member of the Don Callis family. Not that it matters if he'd pinned anybody in that match, that was just to make him look good, because he is the challenger. He didn't win the shot by pinning anybody, he just showed up after Kyle asked for someone to be sent. And this is who they sent. And should be good. I mean, when has a Kyle Fletcher match ever been bad? And I've seen Takahashi a little bit, and I find him really interesting to watch. So it should be fun. Not a lot of story going into this one, because it's Forbidden Door, and sometimes you just gotta have a match with someone from a different company, because that's how Forbidden Door works. And that's why it's my least favourite pay-per-view. IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. This is again just he's English, put him on the card. So this is a New Japan Pro Wrestling title, currently held by Zack Sabre Jr. And he is the leader of TMDK, the Mighty Don't Kneel. He is widely regarded as the best technical wrestler in the world, pretty much. Especially now that Bryan Danielson has retired, he is sort of put on that pedestal as he's the best. And he's English. So there's that. And then we have Nigel McGuinness. He's English. He retired from professional wrestling in 2011, but he was considered one of the best technical wrestlers in the world before retirement. And he is now a commentator on AEW Collision, but he did return to the ring at All In 2024 in the Casino Gauntlet match because he wanted a shot to win the contract, which meant that he could challenge for the World Championship. And because Bryan Danielson was challenging for the Men's World Championship at All In, he basically entered into this match because he hates Danielson so much that it was like, if he wins this title, I want to be able to like be the one to take it off him or whatever. He didn't win the contract because Christian Cage won it, and Bryan Danielson did end up being world champion, and then the two of them faced off at Grand Slam, which Nigel lost. But yeah, he's English and he's a bit of a legend, so let's stick him on the card. Because we don't have enough Englishmen on the card. I swear to God, if we get All In next year and it's just a bunch of English guys wrestling, I'm going to be furious. I want to save up to go next year because I had a lot of fun when I went last year. But if they just plug the card full of Brits that I don't really give a shit about, I'm going to be so upset. I say, knowing full well that MJF versus Will Ospreay was one of my favourite matches on the card, followed by Tony Storm and Mariah May. Like, what am I on about? Like, I'm Brit in both of those matches, but you know, like, is it just me? Do you get it? Like, I'm travelling all this way because I want to watch the best storylines play out. I'm not travelling all this way because I want to see a bunch of British lads and lasses. TBS Championship. Speaking of British lads and lasses. So, Mercedes Moné is the TBS champion. And she's been the TBS champion for a long time. She won it at Double or Nothing last year. So that was May last year. So she's had it, I can't do maths. 14 months? 15? A long time. Basically, they're just probably going to let her keep it until she breaks Jade Cargill's record, so we don't have Jade Cargill on the record list anymore, since she's now with the Fed. She had the title for like 500 days, so why not let Mercedes have it for 510 or whatever, just to beat it. Anyway, she also has a lot of belts. I think we're currently at 8. She's just sort of travelling the world collecting belts, and it's very fun because it's pissing off all the right people. She's amazing. She's haunted by Tony Storm in a way that is very fun. She's great to watch. She's the best women's wrestler in the world, let's face it. That's why she's got 8 belts. And this is a 4-way match, so let's get some international challengers into this thing. So it's one challenger from AEW, one from CMLL, and one from Stardom. From AEW, we have Alex Windsor, who won a 4-way match versus Sky Blue, Queen Hamanata, and Billy Starks. She is non-sexual friends with AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Toni Storm, who beat Mercedes Moné at All In for the Women's World Championship. She's English. She's English. She is from England. She's English. And even though she is, I don't think she's going to win the title. I'm pretty sure that Mercedes will still keep it. Although with it being a 4-way match, she could technically win it without having to pin Mercedes Moné, which they might do. But if they're trying to beat Jade Cargill's record, probably not. She's also very great. Like, I feel like I'm being very down on the fact that all of these people are English, and it's like, well, they're probably going to put on great matches. Like, just because they're English doesn't mean that they're shit and they don't deserve places on the card. It's just a lot of English people. And then we have Bozilla from Stardom. She's German, so I assume it was probably easier for her to get a visa to compete in England, which I do suspect is perhaps the reason that they chose her out of everybody. But she also looks awesome. I've not watched her wrestle before, but just from like Google images of trying to get a picture of her for this, like, I can't wait. Like, genuinely, like, I can't wait to see her wrestle. and it's her AEW debut. Never been on AEW TV before. And then we have Persephone from CMLL. Didn't have to win a match or anything, it was just announced. But she has represented CMLL in AEW and Ring of Honor matches before, so it was probably an easy choice to send someone that the audience already recognise. It should be fun. Fun 4-way match with very little storyline. Yay. And then we have the AEW Women's World Championship. Slightly more exciting than all of the other matches, in my opinion. We have Timeless Toni Storm, Women's World Champion. She's been the Women's World Champion for a while now. Well, technically, maybe not that long, because she did lose it, and then she won it again in February. She lost it at the last All-In in London, and then she won it again in February in Australia. She's got a butler named Luther, but he's injured. I think it was at All-In, and he's been off TV for a while. She does have a history of losing in London. Like I said, last year she lost the Women's World Championship to Mariah May in London. And then in 2023, there was a 4-way match for the Women's Championship, which she lost to Saraya, who was like part of a faction that they were both in called the Outcasts at the time. And then her losing that led to her mild psychotic break that developed into Timeless Toni Storm. So even though she has had a history of losing in London, it's always been good for her, kind of. I mean, in 2024 it was good for her because she got to take a little bit of a break, which was nice. She'd been working hard since then. And then Athena is the Ring of Honor Forever Champion. She's been champion for like nearly 1,000 days at this point. And she's also the Minion Overlord. She has a minion called Billy Starks. She won the Women's Casino Gauntlet at All-In in July, which gives you a guaranteed title shot whenever she wants. And she decided in advance to say that she was going to cash in that contract for a fight at Forbidden Door. Mainly because she knew that Toni Storm has a history of losing in London. So she was like, well, I will cash this in and your look's gonna stay the same and I'm gonna win. And she has pinned Toni Storm before in a tag match versus Toni and Alex Windsor, so it's not like she knows that she can't beat her or anything. Yeah, that's there's not a lot to say. It's been interesting to watch in terms of sort of promos and fighting and whatnot. But like storyline wise, it's pretty simple. She has a contract, she's gonna execute it, and she's probably gonna lose. But I don't know. I wouldn't be against her winning. I really don't know who's gonna beat Toni Storm if Athena doesn't beat Toni Storm, because God knows there's nobody else on the roster that's at that level. And then finally we have the AEW Men's World Championship. So we have Hangman Adam Page, who beat Jon Moxley at All-In for the Men's World title. He's the champion. He has been for a month. He's had a long battle with himself to sort of feel worthy of like the love that the fans have for him. He's done some bad stuff, including arson. And some fans overlook that in a way of like, that's okay and we love you, in a way that I think is wrong, because arson is wrong. But he's often described as the main character of AEW, so some people just think that he can't do anything wrong. So he's had this battle of like the people thinking he can't do anything wrong versus sort of knowing that he has done things wrong and having to deal with the consequences of that, and like his feelings against that and the anger that he has and all of this kind of stuff, to feel like he deserves the love and the acceptance, and that he's going to continue to prove people that he's worth the love and the acceptance. Anyway, and then we have MJF. MJF won the Casino Gauntlet at All-In, so that gave him a guaranteed title shot at the Men's World Championship. And he had basically been trying to goad Hangman Adam Page into giving him a title shot without cashing in his contract, like trying to anger him and rile him up, because he figured that if he gets him angry enough, that Hangman would just like snap and challenge him to a match anyway, and that way, if he loses that match, he still has the contract to cash in for a chance to win the world title. But Hangman has sort of processed his feelings in a way that MJF hasn't at all. So instead of MJF goading Hangman into giving him a match for the title without using his contract, Hangman managed to goad him into agreeing to use his contract for the match. And MJF has had issues with Hangman for a long time, mainly because Hangman and MJF are kind of similar in the sense that they're both just sort of sad little kittens who don't feel worthy of love. And MJF's main issue with Hangman is that Hangman gets the love regardless of whether he feels worthy, and MJF doesn't. And he refuses to process why that might be, i.e. not feeling remorse for any of the bad things that he does, when the bad things that Hangman has done has almost eaten him alive. MJF is just very closed off. He's got a wall up that is trying to protect him from heartbreak, but is also kind of eating him alive, because it's making him like hate Hangman to a level of almost self-destruction, because he's sad and insecure. He opened his heart and he loved Adam Cole, and Adam Cole ruined his life, showed him that he wasn't ever friends with him, and caused him to lose his world title, and then just left him injured and alone. Poor little baby. Now he's refusing to ever open his heart to anybody again, and that means that people won't show him love, and he just gets angry and he lashes out. And then we have some recent developments. I did the slide and I was like, oh, he's cashing his contract, he was goaded into it, that's done, tick all the boxes, that's finished. And then this week's Dynamite happened, and yeah, MJF has had issues with Mark Briscoe for a while as well, and Briscoe and Hangman are like friends, and Hangman has saved Briscoe from MJF beating before, but then MJF got Ricochet and Gates of Agony to help tie Mark up, because Ricochet has also had issues with Mark Briscoe. And then MJF basically threatened to set him on fire if Hangman didn't agree to give him the match at Forbidden Door without having to cash in the contract. And also I think he made him agree that it was no disqualification and he could win the title via count out, I think, with the stipulations that he added to it. But MJF has a history of having the stipulations that he adds to matches bite him in the ass in the end, where he's just throwing random stipulations in and being like, oh, by the way, also, you need to do this and you need to do that, and then it's just not worked out for him. But does he ever learn? No, he doesn't, because he's too in his own head. He's got a little shell around his soul, and it means that he never learns from his mistakes, because he doesn't even recognise that he's ever made a mistake, other than the big mistake of letting Adam Cole into his heart. It's sad. I feel bad for him. Just wanted to give him a hug and a little pat on the head and tell him that there are people that love him no matter what, within reason. Don't be setting men on fire, and then maybe people would love you more. But he doesn't really get the memo. Poor man. Yeah. So anyway, that's Forbidden Door. That is the card as it currently stands, I think. I haven't checked Blue Sky, so I don't know if they've randomly added more matches. If they have, then those will have to go unspoken about. unless they're exceptional and they end up on my monthly best wrestling matches video. We'll see. Gone back to the big camera so I can do a cheeky plug, because I have made a new wrestling zine. It's very colourful. More colourful than any of my other ones, because I got a new printer. So it doesn't cost like 90 quid to change one colour thing anymore. Just full of 21 different wrestling chants with little descriptions of why they exist. And there's also, you can also get stickers of some of the chants. Am I holding that the right way around? No, I'm not. And my personal favourite is this one. Because you can't even really tell that it's a wrestling thing. It's just something you can slap anywhere. And it is probably mostly always relevant. Yes, so new zine, stickers, link will be in the description if you're interested. I also have my other wrestling zines that I have not shown off on here at all. You could check them on there because they're all there. And a ton of bracelets, and I mean like a ton of wrestling themed bracelets. I went a little crazy with the beads. If you're interested in that, link down below. I've never plugged on here before, but I figured it's about time I should do that. But anyway, enjoy Forbidden Door. I will see you at the end of the month to talk about wrestling some more.